Your goal should be to earn as much money as possible while overseas, pay a low rate of tax, live well for less, and then reinvest that substantial difference back into your business or back into some portfolio. Today, I'm going to tell you why I believe that and how you can do it. My big thing is, if you're going to move overseas, you don't want to reduce your game to survival level. And so let's be honest, water seeks its own level. If you live in a country, chances are the cost of taxes, food, car payments, everything that you do, whether you make $30,000 a year, $300,000 a year, or even $3 million a year, your cost of living adjusts, the taxes keep up, and you're left with not that much at the end of the day. I've told you the story of the 300,000 euro earner in Europe who, living in the right neighborhood, driving the right cars, and paying all the appropriate taxes for being a high earner, basically ended up with nothing and was reliant on the government to subsidize their retirement. And so when you're moving overseas, to me, you want to seize the full opportunity of doing that, and you want to stop adjusting yourself to the local level of saying, hey, I can live in Latin America and I can get by on $40,000. I can live like a king in Asia for $60,000. Level up your game to where you want to be. Let's talk about how you can do that. If it's your first time here, my name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the founder of a company called Nomad. We help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors, the ones who did level up their game, legally reduce their taxes, protect their assets, increase their freedom, and grow their opportunities internationally. And so where do you do this? You don't want to follow the herd. And so nothing wrong with living in Bali, nothing wrong with living in Bangkok, nothing wrong with living in Medellin, nothing wrong with living in Lisbon or any of the other hotspots around the world. We've inspired some of them. Tbilisi, for example, Belgrade. People go there, hey, I came here because of you. But I don't want you to follow the herd. I want you to find the place where you're going to be inspired. And so for me, for example, in Asia, I chose to not go to the hotspots because I wanted to avoid some of the folks who were following the herd. So I said, I'm going to go to Kuala Lumpur. And so there, I can be inspired to do my best work because I'm in a place that is more similar to where I'm from. I get all the great parts about Asia, but I get some of the comforts of home, and I can optimize that for growth. At the same time, whether I'm living in Bogota, Istanbul, Kuala Lumpur, any of the places that I call home, my costs are less. I can go out and I can take some of the money that I'm making with a lower tax rate than I would have, much lower tax rate than in the United States. I can go and put that into buying housing, so I get rid of housing costs right away. Just get rid of rent, okay? You don't have to buy, and so if I was gonna live in Bangkok, I probably would be renting right now, other than the lifestyle decision of I don't like dealing with landlords, I wanna hang up pictures, I don't wanna have to deal with all the rules. But from a financial point of view, you could rent, or you could save up money over time and buy. Food's going to be less, you can have the lifestyle that you want. And so the idea is far too many people are inspired by only the lifestyle side of nomad capitalists, that they're going to go and live in South America. If they're single, they're going to be out dating every night, they're going to be salsa dancing. Nothing wrong with that. But people have this ceiling where, hey, you can live in Bali for $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, whatever the number is today. Why would you do that to yourself? Nobody really does that. Like, is anyone sitting around New York? Hey, you can live in Manhattan for $100,000 a year. Like, that's what I'll make. You may make that because, again, water seeks its own level, and you are just like, hey, that's the job market. But as we're seeing, people get remote jobs. They start online businesses. You can work anywhere that you want, and you can basically democratize your income and create total location independence. And so when you do that, why would you adjust the income potential? For me, if you're gonna run a business, if you're gonna run a portfolio, your goal is to give back as much as possible. Your goal is to have a mission. What am I trying to change? How am I trying to help humanity? How am I trying to change the world? And so you're not gonna do that and then say, oh, I'm gonna stop at $50,000. What I ask people is, if you had to look at everybody in the eye who you could have served but didn't because you chose to limit your game because, hey, I can live like a king in Colombia for 50 grand a year, what would you say to those people who could have been inspired by the mission that you're building? And so how do you do this, right? How do you earn as much money as possible? Well, you want to have some kind of either high-paying skill. If you can be an employee, right? How do I move my job to where I can do that from anywhere in the world? More companies are opening up to that, but not just remote within my own country, but remote within the world. If I want to be a freelancer or provide services, have a one-woman small business, what kind of high-paying skill can I learn? You can learn a lot of stuff online. I've seen people learn things in less than a year. They learn videography, they learn video editing, they learn social media, they learn all kinds of different things, high-ticket sales, whatever it may be, right? Sales and marketing, two great areas to be in. Build your business. If you already have a business, as I do, for example, How do I move that business overseas? How do I follow the offshore tax principles, which we talk about in all of the episodes here on our channel, of how to make sure that I can legally reduce my tax as much as possible? And then I basically, I'm gonna ramp that up as much as possible. So if I'm a video editor, how do I get the best paying video clients? If I am a business, how do I make the most money from the business? How do I expand? How do I do more? That part, plenty of people cover how to do that. How do you pay a low rate of tax? You either live in a tax-free country, a territorial tax country, a country with a non-dom, a country with a tax exemption. So you've got countries in Latin America like Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico in some cases. Uruguay is a tax exemption. Chile is a tax exemption. In Europe, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Ireland, Cyprus, Malta all have opportunities for you. In Asia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore is harder to get into. Philippines, those can all work. You've got other countries in other parts of the world, like Mauritius, for example, in Africa could work. Vanuatu in the South Pacific, probably not as common or not as popular. You can move to those places. You can also live my trifecta lifestyle, where if you're living in 3 more undeveloped places or with lesser developed tax systems, they want you there more than they want your money. They want you spending money on stuff every day. Live in 3 different places, 4 months a year, and if you do that correctly in lesser developed countries, you can legally pay tax. And not only do you have to find a tax resident somewhere else, if you do that, now you have a high-paying income, perhaps higher paying than what you would make in a place like New York. You keep more of that money because your tax rate is 0 or 5%, or you're paying some fixed rate of tax based on the money that you live on. The ultimate hack is like a non-down program where, let's say you make $1 million a year, but you can live on $150. You bring the $150 in, you pay the tax as if you're making $150, but 85% of your income is untaxed. They're happy to get more money from you than they would from most of the local citizens, and you wouldn't be paying them anyway if you're not living there. That's the ultimate kind of hack. So the more money you can bring in and you can live on less, you've got the rest. So you look at a non-dom country like an Ireland or like a Malta, you can basically arbitrage how much money is left over to then invest overseas and be able to invest that in markets like a Singapore, for example, where there's no dividend tax. You can put that in investments in Singapore. They pay you a dividend. There's no tax for you, and then there's no tax because it's outside of where you're living in the non-dom program. Same with a territorial, same with a tax-free jurisdiction. And so ramp up your income, reduce your taxes by living overseas. We've covered those things. And then if you keep your cost of living reasonable, again, I mean, the more you ramp up your income, you can live on a small percentage of that in a lot of places. If you can live like a king in South America for 60 grand, but you're making $1 million, even if you pay a little bit of tax, again, more money than the average person pays in tax, you'll still have 900 grand, 500. I mean, it's unlimited. You put that back into the business. Do you have a business that you can scale? So do you run ads, for example, in your business? If you run ads, how do you build that out? And so every dollar that you're saving in reduced cost of living, lower taxes, means another dollar you can put back into your business. Now you start creating jobs. Where are those people going to be based, right? How does that work in your offshore structure? We've covered that. So the bottom line is, I see too many people who are moving to places and bringing the game down in a way that they wouldn't do in their own country, where if they stayed in their own country, they might make more. Now, I think if you're really a go-getter, you're going to move overseas and you're going to say, oh, wow, I was making $1 million in the United States and I was paying 40% tax. Now I'm living in Dubai and I can legally defer that, or especially if I'm from Canada, Germany, some other Western country. It's not the US, it's even easier. But even if I'm an American, I can legally reduce my taxes dramatically by living in somewhere that's tax-free or very tax-friendly. I'm going to be more motivated to do that. I've seen ladies who they go from $1 million to 1.6 million because now it's like, wow, I'm keeping all this. I'm actually very motivated. But if you don't have as much motivation, find the motivation within you so that you're not reducing to local survival level, because you've got this great opportunity. You've made the move. You've done something that most people won't do. Why would you do all that to bring your game down? I'm not talking about retirement. If you want to save up that money, all that extra money that you're making over the years, and you want to save $5 million, I had a guy the other day, I want to save $5 million, he said. Throw that in a dividend stock portfolio, something that's secure. Throw that, these days, even a term deposit. You're going to make your 4, 5, 6%. You want to live on 200 or 300 grand. Hey, you're still tripling or quadrupling the live like a king level in some of those places. Nothing wrong with that. But while you're putting in the effort, while you're working, why do you want to hold back on your mission? And why do you want to hold back on this great opportunity? Warren Buffett, Dave Ramsey, and many others say the greatest thing you can leverage in your life is your income. And so you have this great income. Why not leverage it up, pay less, spend less, and then put the rest to work for you. That's going to get you a lot further. And then you have the optionality of saying, do I want to keep growing this further, build up my citizenship portfolio, make sure I'm well covered, or do I want to just, again, take the opportunity that many people in the Western world don't have right now of saying, I'm going to invest this in an extremely conservative way. The guy with $5 million who doesn't have a personal tax rate and who invests in places where they don't tax his dividends can basically get double the income from a dividend portfolio because he's made those tax moves. And so now he can afford to take much less risk. Rather than chasing yield and doing things that are more risky, he is going to be more successful, all because he didn't reduce his game to survival level. He kept the expectations financially of where he's from, leverage those up, and then lower the cost. To me, that's the way to do it, and I don't want you to adapt to the local economy when you're moving overseas.